When I was 10 years old, I was really into Minecraft. I loved playing on the Hypixel server, where they offered various ranks you could buy to unlock extra features and make the game more exciting. I really wanted one of those ranks, but my parents weren't keen on funding my gaming hobby, and they had good reasons. So, when I discovered my mom's credit card information was saved on the computer, I did some sneaky investigating. I was sure there would be an extra security question and the charge wouldn't go through. It was mostly a joke in my head as I thought, wouldn't it be funny if this worked? Though next thing I knew, I had a rank on Hypixel. As a 10-year-old, the ease of that transaction gave me a sense of power I didn't know how to handle. Not long after, I maxed out my rank on the server and proudly showed it off to my online friends since I didn't have many real friends at the time. Eager to impress and unaware of the consequences, I offered to share my newfound glory, asking all my online crew if they wanted ranks too. Some of them said I didn't need to do that, but I insisted. $130 later, my mom saw the charge on her bank statement. I adamantly denied my involvement and burst into tears, completely unprepared to face the consequences. My family bombarded me with questions which I either avoided or vaguely answered until we concocted a story to explain what had happened. They eventually decided that I wasn't a stupid child who did a bad thing, but that I had been hacked by one of my online friends. I knew this wasn't true, but I went along with it because the truth was much more embarrassing. It wasn't completely implausible either. I used to chat with these friends on Skype, so it wouldn't have been too far-fetched to think I might have accidentally shared too much personal information in our conversations. My mom contacted the server moderators to get the charge refunded, but according to their policy, my account was banned from the server. I assumed this meant my online friends were banned too, although I never dared to speak to them again. After a lecture on internet safety and stranger danger, life moved on. I've only ever confessed my mistakes to one other person. When I think about it now, I'm not sure if I actually got away with it, or if my parents saw how upset I was and chose to spare me by coming up with a different explanation. 10 years later, I still haven't asked and don't plan to. I haven't done anything like that since. I definitely learned my lesson. The guilt haunted me for years. Now, when there's something I want online, at least I'm a grown adult who can pay for it myself. Story 2. It's been 10 years since everything went down, and I'm finally ready to come clean about my role in it all. I've kept it inside for a long time, but I'm ready to confess my part in what happened. I used to work at a small, independent daycare center in my early 20s. It was a terrible job, and I was so unhappy. The work environment was toxic, which is ironic for a daycare. Our boss would spend most of her time in her office, monitoring the classrooms through cameras. While it's common for daycares to have cameras, this boss was the only one who got to watch the footage. She loved to find reasons to call us into her office and write us up. I even got in trouble once because a kid bit another kid, even though I wasn't in the room at the time. She said I should have prevented it somehow. The daycare's time-off policy was terrible. If I recall correctly, you had to work there for at least a year before you could even request a day off. And to make matters worse, they didn't offer any paid time off PTO. My boyfriend, now my husband, surprised me with a week-long trip to Colorado. I desperately needed a break and couldn't pass up a free vacation, especially since I was struggling financially. However, I knew the daycare wouldn't approve my request for time off, so I made up a story. I told them I had to attend my aunt's funeral in Colorado. I felt bad about lying, but I didn't see any other way out. They were legally required to grant me the time off, but my boss told me I'd have to provide proof of the funeral when I returned. I was caught off guard and worried because I hadn't planned for that. I asked her what kind of proof she needed, and she mentioned a few things, including a funeral program. My heart sank, thinking about how I was going to come up with that. My boyfriend's father had passed away the previous year, and he had been responsible for creating the funeral programs. So, We came up with a plan to create a fake program for my Aunt Betty. We wanted it to look genuine. So we used nicer paper than regular printer paper. We also needed pictures of her, so I went on Facebook and searched for someone who matched the descriptions I had given to my boss and colleagues. After scrolling through countless profiles, I finally found a sweet-looking elderly lady and saved some of her photos to use in the program. I want to remind you that I was very young and naive at the time. This was also before the era of catfishing on dating apps, so I didn't realize the potential harm of my actions. I thought it was a harmless white lie, but I've since learned and grown from my mistakes. I've been taught a valuable lesson and have gotten back on the right path. Shall I continue with the rest of the story? We created a very convincing funeral program for my fake Aunt Betty. We included her favorite things and added multiple photos that showed how full and vibrant her life was. To make it look even more authentic, we crumpled up the program and stuffed it into a bag, making it look like it had been handled and cared for. We wanted it to appear like I had actually been to a funeral and was grieving, rather than just enjoying a vacation in Colorado. No one ever discovered the truth, and my secret was safe. So, I want to give a special thanks to Aunt Betty the sweet lady, whose photos I borrowed for helping me pull off my fake funeral story and enjoy my much-needed vacation. May she rest in peace. Story 3. My neighbors rent out their basement suite to their adult daughter, her partner, and their child. The daughter seems to always want to be the center of attention, has yelled at me multiple times to stop doing yard work outside, even called the city bylaws on me once for cutting my grass at 4 p.m. on a Saturday, and more. She also refuses to help her elderly parents with their yard work, so I've taken it upon myself to mow half their lawn and completely take care of the area below their retaining wall. It's no big deal, it's only a quarter of the size of my front yard and it's flat. However, the daughter continues to scream at me every time I start mowing or trimming in my own yard. It's really aggravating. At the end of May, she completely lost it when I started mowing the lower area of the yard and yelled at me to stop, threatening to call the police. So I did just that. I stopped. Then I sent my neighbor a nice text explaining that her daughter seemed upset and had asked me to stop. Now, every week I mow only up to the property line, and their yard has gotten quite overgrown. Last week, daughter dearest asked if I could start mowing their lawn again because her mom was angry. I politely declined, saying it's too noisy and I might get into trouble. Today she was outside, struggling with a large gas mower down 9 stairs. It took her 25 minutes to mow what I can do in 3 minutes. Then she struggled to get the mower back up,